The first view is that you believe that the body, this body is yourself. Thân kiến, you simply believe that you are this body. So if you believe like that, it means that with this disintegration of this body, you are no longer there. And you believe that before the formation of this body, you were not there. So there are many effects that come from that kind of wrong view. The second is to believe in pairs of opposite. You believe that the right is totally other than the left. There is a birth, there is a death, there is inside, there is outside, there is a being, there is non-being, there is sameness, there is otherness. All these concepts that form pairs of opposite, if you are caught in it, that is wrong views. The teaching of Buddha help us to transcend pairs of opposites in order for us to come to a view free from all view, that is the middle way. The middle way is the way transcending all pairs of opposite, including being and non-being, birth and death, inside and outside, object and subject. This is very, very deep, very wonderful teaching. This is called a thân kiến. Thân kiến, body as a self. And being kiến, believing in extreme. And then the next is a kiến thủ kiến. Attachment to views. You learn something. You have a notion. You are caught by that notion. And that is the end of your progress on the spiritual path. So whatever you have learned, whatever you have heard, you should be careful. You should not consider it to be the absolute truth. You should be able to let it go in order for you to be able to come to a higher truth. It's like in science, if you have discovered something, and if you believe that to be the ultimate truth, and then you don't search anymore, you are not a true scientist. So in order to progress in our path, we have to be ready to release our view, release our understanding. It's like climbing on a ladder. If you have come up to the fourth step, and if you think that you are the highest, and then there's no more climbing. You have to abandon to release the fourth in order to get to the fifth. And when you have got to the fifth, you should be ready to release the fifth in order to come to the sixth. So knowledge as obstacle for knowledge. So if you see something, you understand something, be sure that that's something you can release in the future in order to get to a higher kind of truth. That is the teaching on non-attachment to views. I think that's very scientific. Tà kiến, perverted view. Perverted view. Suppose you believe that things just happened by chance. There is no cause and effect. That is a kind of perverted view, wrong views. The law is that when you sow the beans, the seed of the beans, you will harvest the beans. When you sow the seed of anger, you harvest anger. But you don't believe in the law of cause and effect. You think that everything is just by chance. Or when you observe one thing, deeply you see that that thing manifests because of many conditions coming together. But you believe that you don't need many things coming together, you need only one cause. That is the kind of view that is perverted. You don't believe in Four Noble Truths, that suffering has come from a way of living that is full of wrong perceptions and wrong thinking, wrong speech, wrong action. You believe that suffering just comes like that without any cause. So that is a wrong view. And then the last one is giới cấm thủ. Giới cấm thủ kiến. That is attachment to taboos. You believe that performing such a ritual, you can get liberation, salvation. You are caught by the rituals. You believe that you can eat every kind of meat except beef, because eating beef will prevent you from being saved. You believe that you can eat every kind of meat except pork. So that is the kind of taboo, that kind of precept, that kind of rituals that you can get caught in it. The fact is that with understanding you can liberate. It's not by performing rituals and things and observing taboos that you can get liberation. So these are 10 kind of fetters that we should be liberated from in order for us to be free and happy. So giới tâm thúc thiện is to believe in taboos and in rituals. Both of you, Buddha and you, are empty in nature. So that is a kind of looking deeply, and that has the power of liberating. And if we don't do that, we believe that bowing to the Buddha is an act of devotion that will help you to be saved. The case where you are caught in rituals. It's like in the performance of the Eucharist, the priest break the bread and give it to you, and give the wine for you to drink. And if you believe that that is really the blood of Jesus and the flesh of Jesus, you are caught by rituals. In fact, in Plum Village, every time we hold a piece of bread, we have to look deeply, and we see that the piece of bread is the body of the whole cosmos. Because in the piece of bread you see the sunshine, the cloud, the earth, everything. The whole cosmos is in the bread. So when you eat the bread, you are in real touch with the cosmos. And that is a practice of mindfulness and insight that will liberate you. So when the priest perform the Eucharist, they want you to be alive. They want you to be in touch with Jesus Christ that is a reality in you. And also the priest, when he performs the ritual, he should perform in such a way that the whole congregation become alive in the here and the now. It's like when we invite the bell. Everyone come home to the here and the now and become alive. And if we don't become alive, we just keep silent like a ritual. We are caught. We do the same thing, but in different ways. So the Eucharist also like that. When a priest celebrates the Eucharist, he should become alive. And the congregation in the church should become alive with him. And that is the aim of the rituals. It's not because it's not possible that he can automatically do the rituals. And that is to be caught in the rituals. Because we don't get anything except the rituals. But communion is something possible when you are truly alive, and you feel that you are in Christ and Christ is in you, and that is what you want, and not just the performance of rituals. So the same thing is true in every tradition. We are easily caught in the rituals, and that is one of the fetters we have to break through. So when we organize a day of mindfulness for people to come, we have to organize in such a way that every moment of the day of mindfulness should be a moment of mindfulness, a moment of joy, of peace, of freedom. Otherwise, even the day is full with sitting, walking, chanting, but it's empty of life. It's empty of joy and peace. So you are caught in the rituals. Sitting meditation can be a ritual. Walking meditation can be a ritual. Chanting can be a ritual, and that is one factor. And the Sutra of Mindful Breathing, the 13th, from the 13th on, we come to the area of perception. And the 13th exercise of mindful breathing is the contemplation of impermanence. Contemplating impermanence. I breathe in. The many teachers teach impermanence, including Confucius. And we agree with each other as things are impermanent. Everything is changing. But that does not help very much if you agree with the reality of impermanence. But impermanence here should be used as an instrument and not just an idea. Impermanence here should be used as a samadhi. It means a concentration. All day long, when you get in touch with everything, you are capable of seeing the impermanence of all these things. Your partner, for instance, every time you look at her, you see that she is impermanent. And you see yourself also as impermanent. Because we have the tendency to believe in permanence. When you look at the family album, we see ourselves as a 5-year-old boy or 5-year-old girl. And if you compare that image of the 5-year-old child with us now, we see that there is a big difference. Yeah, very different as far as the body is concerned. Very different as far as the feelings and perceptions are concerned. They are so different. So you can see the big difference between the 5-year-old child and us. We see impermanence. And yet, we suddenly believe that we are the same person always. We suddenly believe that we are always the same person. So our idea of impermanence does not help. Only a deep concentration on the nature of impermanence can help. And impermanence is not a negative note in the music, because if you realize that everything is impermanent, you will treasure more what is there. So if you know that your beloved one is impermanent, you will cherish every moment you can spend with him or her. And when you see the impermanence of things, you see these things are more beautiful, like a shooting star. A shooting star just exists in 1 second. That is why it's so beautiful. The fireworks, very beautiful because they don't last. So when you get angry at your beloved one, and you intend to say something to punish him or her, because she has dared to make you suffer, and then you have to contemplate impermanence. Close your eyes and visualize your beloved one 300 years from now. You will not be there in this form, and she will not be there in that form either. When you touch the nature of impermanence in the person of your beloved one, when you are able to touch the nature of impermanence in yourself, and that can be done in a few seconds. You open your eyes, and your anger is gone. And you cherish this moment where she is still alive and you are still alive. So you may like to hold that person in your arms and say, you are still alive, I am still here. So anger can be removed just by contemplation of impermanence. And if you have not seen the nature of interbeing, if you have not seen the nature of no self, of dependent origination, you have not seen impermanence. And that is why contemplating impermanence means contemplating the nature of interbeing, of no self, of dependent origination. And impermanence is an instrument, not more than that, not the absolute truth that you have to proclaim over all other kind of truth. You have to overcome the notion of impermanence. Because the impermanence is not a notion, that is only an instrument. Suppose we ask the question, what is impermanent? Dear Buddha, you taught us, you teach us that everything is impermanent. Please tell us what is impermanent. The tree is impermanent, the cloud is impermanent, or what is impermanent? Impermanent is an adjective, and there should be a noun going together with that adjective, because the adjective qualified a noun. Impermanence means that nothing can remain the same thing in two consecutive moments, right? It means that something can only exist in one instant. And in the next moment, something is there, something else is there, not exactly the same thing. So the notion of impermanence is impossible, because there must be something that is lasting in order for it to be impermanent. But you don't see something like that. So semantically, it is absurd to say that everything is impermanent. In fact, everything is only for one short moment, a millisecond only. And that is it. If that does not last, how can we say that it's impermanent? So the idea of impermanence should be transcended. We imagine that impermanence is the appearance, the outside appearance of something, and inside there is something that is lasting, and that's something where the mark of impermanence. But in fact, impermanence means that you cannot remain the same person in two consecutive moments. So to say that everything is impermanent is not correct. Có người nào không hiểu không? Too complicated? No? Before the Buddha's passing away, he uttered a very beautiful gatha. This is seen in the Mahaparinirvana Sutta. Every formation is impermanent. All formations are impermanent. Thì sinh diệt pháp. They are the things that have to go through birth and death. All formations, sattva, samskara, anitya. Every formation is impermanent because they are all phenomena that have to go through birth and death. And come the third line, sinh diệt diệt dĩ. Tịch diệt vi lạc. But when both birth and death dies, and then nirvana become the source of happiness. Sinh diệt diệt dĩ, tịch diệt vi lạc. But when the notion of birth and death are removed, and then that kind of extinction is called happiness. I think many people have mistranslated this gatha, especially in the Southern tradition. We can divide the gatha into two parts, and this deal with the first two lines deal with the historical dimension, and this the second two lines deal with the ultimate dimension. And the first two lines are presenting us the relative truth with notions, that all kind of phenomena, all kind of formations are impermanent, because all of them have to go through birth and death, birth and death, birth and death. But when you go to the second part of the gatha, you see it's different. But when the notion of birth and death are removed, when birth and death, both of them die, because birth and death are notions and not reality. Because when you practice looking deeply, you see that in the appearance there is birth and death, but deeply there is no birth and death. Let us go back to the cloud in the sky. A cloud can never die. A cloud can never pass from being to non-being. A cloud can become snow or ice or rain, but a cloud cannot become nothing. So it is impossible for a cloud to die. But it is also impossible for a cloud to be born, because to be born means from nothing you become something. From no one you become someone. A cloud is not like that. Before manifesting herself as a cloud, she had been something else, like the water in the ocean, the heat generated by the sun, the water vapor. So she has not come from nothing. So her nature is no birth and no death. So in the beginning, you see that everything is impermanent. They have to go through birth and death. But in the second part, birth and death is notions. And if you can overcome the notion of birth and death, that extinction of notions make you happy, because you are no longer afraid either of impermanence, of birth and of death. This is one of the most beautiful gathas in the literature of Buddhism. We begin with the notion of impermanence. We begin with the notion of birth and death, but finally we transcend the notion of impermanence. We transcend the notion of birth and death, and no fear becomes possible. And that is why impermanence, looking deeply, It means interdependence. It means interbeing. It means no self as instruments for meditation. And you should not caught by them. You should not promote them as the absolute truth. The 14th is about the contemplation on no craving. The Sanskrit word is viraga. When you have seen that everything is impermanent, they are interbeing, the nature, the true nature is interbeing, co-arising, and then they stop to be the object of your craving. Because we have the tendency to seek for pleasure. In us, there is a tendency called manas, that always seek to avoid pain and suffering. That's a natural tendency. There's a natural tendency to avoid suffering, to run away from suffering, and to seek pleasure, to run after pleasure. That is natural in us. And that is manas, ikang. And without the insight brought about by the practice of meditation, we continue to behave like that, always trying to run away from suffering, from pain, always trying to run after pleasure. But we know that suffering is important. Suffering can instruct us. If you are not capable to hold your suffering and look into the nature of suffering, you can never see the path leading to transformation and healing. And manas ignore the goodness of suffering. Manas always ignore the goodness of suffering. Manas don't see the play of the mud in a lotus pond. As he believes that lotus is possible without mud. And manas ignore the danger of running after objects of craving. She's ready to die if she can get it. She's so attracted to the object of her craving that she accepts to die after having got it. But she does not know that the object of craving can bring her a lot of suffering. She does not know that the object of craving is like a piece of bare bone. It will never satisfy us, satisfy the dog. And that is why to meditate means to get an insight about the goodness of suffering, the danger of running after object of our craving, and to help manas to transmit that insight to manas.